Women are dead after a shooting in Cicero. It happened near 19th and Cicero, where there is a large police presence tonight. We just learned from Cicero police that a 19-year-old woman and a 29-year-old woman were shot and taken to the hospital where they died from their injuries. Police say they believe this is a domestic incident and they are still searching for the killer.
Just before 8 p.m. on January 2nd, Cicero police responded to a home on the 1800 block of South 48th Court for reports of a shooting. Upon arrival to the scene, officers were met with a chaotic scene with 14 people in one house, including men, women, and several children. They will also locate 2 unresponsive adult females and a baby inside of the basement.
Involving 2 women shot and killed in Cicero. Cicero police say they found 2 women shot dead in the 1800 block of South 48th Court at about 7:45 p.m. Just recently, a city official says they also found a baby with one of the victims. That baby is apparently okay and was given to a relative last night. Police also found a man dead at a nearby park. There's no word on how the 2 incidents may be related.
The victims were identified by the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office as 19-year-old Myeshia Newby and 29-year-old Jessica Hughes, who were both rushed to Mount Sinai Hospital, where they were both sadly pronounced dead after succumbing to multiple gunshot wounds. Myeshia would have turned 20 on January 4th, just 2 days shy of her birthday. A 10-month-old baby was also located at the scene and initially appeared to be fine. In fact, family members weren't aware until the next day that the baby had even been shot. Multiple families were living inside the home where the shooting took place, and at least 10 kids were inside when shots were fired. Police immediately began searching for the suspect, using helicopters and dogs. The day after the shooting, Cicero police announced that an unidentified man was found dead at a park near 16th Street and Central Avenue from a gunshot wound, just a mile away from where the 2 women were shot and killed. Myeshia Newby's family said she and the suspect, identified as her boyfriend of 2 years, 21-year-old Rafael Vega, were in a relationship and were apparently arguing over a link card before he shot and killed her and Jessica, who attempted to run away as she held his and Myeshia's baby in her arms, causing the child to fall to the floor. A link card, also known as an EBT card, is an electronic system that allows state welfare departments to issue benefits via a magnetically encoded payment card used in the United States. Apparently, Myeshia accused Vega of taking her link card out of her wallet when out of nowhere, he fired 3 shots before fleeing the scene. He ultimately would be killed himself. It wasn't until the morning after the murders that the grandmother noticed the baby had a little bit of a scratch and fluid on his abdomen, prompting her to take him to the hospital. He was taken to St. Anthony Hospital and later transferred to Comer Children's Hospital, where he was stabilized and expected to be okay. A family member recounted the events, saying that everything happened so fast, without any prior argument or disagreement. Now they are left with so many unanswered questions, still trying to grasp the reality of it all. A neighbor recalled hearing the 3 shots as she walked to her car. She, along with other residents, say they just want the gun violence to stop so that other families never have to experience a situation such as this.
Learning new details about the double murder of these 2 women in Cicero last night. Police now say a baby was also hurt but wasn't taken to the hospital until today. Our Maribel Gonzalez has the update from investigators. Maribel.
Yeah, Erica, Cicero police say the 10-month-old was at the house during the time of the shooting. They asked then and then again later if anyone else besides these 2 women were injured. And it wasn't until this morning that the baby's grandmother noticed that something was wrong.
That we have 3 separate scenes that we're working, 3 separate investigations. From all appearances, they appear to be related.
In Cicero, police piecing together a shooting that ended with 2 women killed, a man dead, and a baby injured. Tuesday evening, they responded to this house on the 1800 block of South 48th Court following reports of gunshots. Inside the home, 14 people, including several children.
And many of them obviously were screaming and running around. Officers, they were met with a pretty chaotic scene.
In the basement, 29-year-old Jessica Hughes and 19-year-old Myeshia Newby, both shot and rushed to the hospital where they later died. Neighbor America Pantoja saw the scene unfold.
It started all chaos. Ambulance, everything started coming down. And my friend's daughter, she was crying, her mom. And that's when we realized there was just more than one victim. It wasn't just her.
Police wouldn't say what led up to the shooting, but point to 21-year-old Rafael Vega as the suspect, whom they said was in a relationship with Newby, the same man they believe was found at a nearby park dead from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound.
He has not been officially identified, but based on description and other factors that exist, we're fairly confident, we're very confident that they indeed are, that he is that subject and that the two events are connected.
Wednesday morning, police were notified that Newby's 10-month-old baby, who was with her in the basement at the time of the shooting, was injured with a wound consistent with a gunshot. The baby's grandmother previously telling police at the scene that the baby was fine. It wasn't until this morning that she took the baby to the hospital, where he is stable. It's unclear how the child was hurt.
The grandmother said that the child was playing normally. There were no signs of any injury. She said this morning she noticed a little bit of a scratch, and then she also looked further and there was a little bit of fluid that she noticed on the abdomen of the baby.
Find the suspected gunman as 21-year-old Rafael Vega. They say he shot and killed his girlfriend and her cousin before later killing himself, a shooting family members say started all over a link card.
They were loving, both of them, loving moms. Good souls.
Within this home were two cousins' bloodshed once laid.
It went from one thing to the next. There was never any loud hollering or anything.
Is now cleaned but replaced with heartache and grief. One day before what would have been Myeshia Newby's birthday.
There's no celebration. You can't celebrate life. There's no life.
Cicero police responding to the home last night on South 48th Court near 18th Street, where they found 19-year-old Newby and her cousin, 29-year-old Jessica Hughes, shot and killed in a basement bedroom. Family members say Newby was arguing with her boyfriend of 2 years, who police today identified as 21-year-old Rafael Vega, over a link card.
And he come back down and say, look at my wallet. She said, you done went up there and took it out. So she said, well, ain't no point in me looking in there. And the next thing I know, I'm hearing shots.
Benton says Vega shot and killed Newby before turning the gun toward Hughes as she was trying to get away with Newby and Vega's infant son, Arturo. The baby, we're learning, was grazed by a bullet.
My daughter dropped at my feet. She had the baby in her hand. She had been shot in the face and in the chest. And he was trying to get by me. So me and him got to fight.
Vega managed to get away as police spent hours searching for him. That search likely coming to an end at this park. Investigators say this morning they were called to the park near 18th and 56th Court for a man dead.
Preliminarily, the subject in the park does appear to be the subject that we were seeking.
Jessica and Myeshia's children will remain in the custody of their great-grandparents. It is unclear if there were any prior altercations that may have led up to the shooting. The case remains ongoing.
I just want to take this opportunity to give a brief update on an incident that we had occur in our town yesterday evening in the 1800 block of 48th Court. At about 7:42 p.m. last evening, we responded to a shooting incident at that location, and upon the arrival of officers, they were met with a pretty chaotic scene. There were approximately 14 individuals in the single-family dwelling at the time, and many of them obviously were screaming and running around. They were able to determine that the event that they were looking to investigate, the shooting, was in the basement area. As they entered into the basement area, they were directed by two male adults into the basement rooms. Upon entering into that basement rooms, they found two female victims inside the residence suffering from gunshot wounds. Once the scene was secure and paramedics were able to come in, administer initial first aid, and then both female subjects, one 19 years old and one 29 years old, were transported to Mount Sinai Hospital, where they were, shortly after arriving, pronounced deceased by medical staff at the hospital. After they cleared the basement, the officers evacuated the residence and secured the crime scene. They did that for the protection of everybody in there, and they also luckily had a good Samaritan that was willing to allow them to go into their home. So most of the people that needed shelter were able to be brought into the Good Samaritan's home, which was a neighbor a few doors down. As the investigation continued, we were able to identify a suspect, Rafael Vega, and we were able to determine that he had a relationship with the 19-year-old female victim, Myeshia Newby. Later in the investigation, we became aware of a 10-month-old child who was also in the basement at the time of the shooting. When we became aware of that information, we immediately began efforts to locate the child and check on its condition. We were able to locate the grandmother of the child, and she advised us on scene shortly after that that the child was in good condition and had no injuries. We were able to also determine through body camera footage that both upon the arrival of officers and throughout the investigation, multiple times with contacts with people, we inquired as to whether anyone was injured, other than obviously the two females that we were aware of. We also had additional medical staff on scene that treated an elderly gentleman that was there and some other elderly people that were on scene there that we were concerned about and wanted to make sure that they had adequate medical care. Additionally, after we became aware of this 10-month-old child, our detectives also continued to conduct follow-up interviews. They also had conversation with the grandmother again, and she advised us that the baby was fine and that there was no concern for the baby. Approximately 5:55 this morning, as we continued our investigation of that incident, we were notified of an incident that occurred in a park at 18th Street and 56th Court, and it was an incident involving a man with a gun. Upon officers responding to that location, they discovered a male in the park, apparently deceased from a single gunshot wound to the head. That investigation continues, as does our initial investigation. Preliminarily, the subject in the park does appear to be the subject that we were seeking in relation to the double homicide that occurred earlier yesterday evening. He has not been officially identified, but based on description and other factors that exist, we're fairly confident, we're very confident that they indeed are, that he is that subject and that the two events are connected. Today also we were notified at 10:30 this morning of a 10-month-old child that had been in the area of our incident last night and is the child of one of the 19-year-old female victim, Ms. Newby, and that child was brought into the hospital by the grandmother initially at St. Anthony's, and then sought more advanced treatment at Coburn Children's Hospital. We became aware of that. We sent detectives to that location, and that child is suffering from an injury that could be consistent with a gunshot wound. It does appear to be that. The baby is stable and being treated at the hospital. What we do know is that we have 3 separate scenes that we're working, 3 separate investigations. From all appearances, they appear to be related, and obviously our investigation continues as it will throughout the night and the coming days. I'm more than happy to take a couple of quick questions, if any exist.
Did your grandparents say when they discovered the baby was hurt and what the injuries were like, how they knew?
Yeah, in fact, we did ask that, and the grandmother said that the child was playing normally. There were no signs of any injury. She said this morning she noticed a little bit of a scratch, and then she also looked further and there was a little bit of fluid that she noticed on the abdomen of the baby. Then the baby, in the course of interacting with the grandmother, started to act a little bit differently or uncomfortable, fussy, I think was the word she used. And that's when she brought the child to the hospital, and that's where it progressed from there. Yeah, it does not appear that there was a party there. Whether they all lived there, they were all visiting at that time. Whether they all lived there, that's all part of our investigation and subsequent interviews that we'll do, or have done, or will do in the future.
And then also, can you share if it's known if the suspect, Mr. Vega, if there was some type of order of protection against him from the young lady who was dating?
Was there an existing one? I'm sorry, is that the question? Not that I'm aware of, no. Does not appear to be the case. I'm sorry, would you mind repeating the question? I couldn't hear you.
Can you shed light on what may have led up to the shooting and just how senseless it was?
The actual events that led up to the shooting are still under investigation, so we don't have those specifics yet, but it is isolated to a domestic. We are confident that it's isolated to a domestic situation. The exact context of that I'm not at liberty to discuss because we haven't really nailed that down. I sure can. R-A-F-A-E-L is Raphael. Vega, V-E-G-A. 21 years old.
Have you confirmed if the baby was shot during the initial shooting?
We're currently conducting investigation into those specifics. At this point, it's still under investigation, so I cannot confirm nor deny that. Yeah, of the 14 people, there were children, women, children, and also obviously some males, but there was a mixture, and there were several children.
There's been a couple of incidents in the area, including a shooting about a block away of another older man. Is there any relationship between those two?
There's no relationship that, from our investigations at this point, there's no relationship. We are very confident in that. And the other investigation that you're referring to, we've made great progress in that investigation, and we can definitively say that they are not connected to one another.
Did Mr. Vega have any criminal background?
Regarding Mr. Vega, I'm sorry?
Any criminal background?
He does have some criminal background, yes, but I don't want to get into the specifics of that.